All right, this is Dustin Sherman, and this is Forgotten Freedoms, and we are here today with Miss Rachel Ries. Ries. I never can remember how to pronounce your name. I know how to spell it, but can you enlighten me? Is it Ries?
Ries.
Ries.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Ries.
I feel bad for never remembering that, but it looks like it could be pronounced a couple different ways. So anyway, we're
Okay.
here with Rachel Ries, and she is running for Anchorage Assembly District
Mhm.
6. So we brought her on today, and I've talked to her a couple times before on different things, and she's been on one of my podcasts in the past. And just want to welcome you aboard, Rachel. How you doing?
Good. I'm glad to be here. I always love coming on your show. Good things.
Yeah, that's it's fun to be able to get out and spread the word and hopefully get good candidates in there for different offices. And I enjoy talking to you guys and getting to know you a little bit better and finding out some of your policies that you guys want to implement. So tell us a little bit about yourself and I think most of the people that are probably already going to vote for you know most of the things about you already because you've ran before.
I
Uh,
have, yeah.
um,
Unfortunately, we didn't take the seat, but it was a hard race. We knew that going in.
right.
So I'm a military veteran. I served in the Guard and I served on active status. I was a paralegal enlisted for many years. I made it to NCO and then eventually I went to OCS, commissioned, and then I went to flight school. And funny enough, because flight school apparently wasn't enough of a challenge, I got to do flight school pregnant. Had my third son while I was at flight
That's
school.
impressive.
Yeah, put a little crimp in my day, and I graduated behind my class by a couple months, but I got her done, so that was worth it. I went to Afghanistan as a medevac pilot and a FSMT, which is a medical team leader, and
Cool.
we did a lot of work down in RC South. Thankfully, every one of us came home, and we made it so a lot of other people came home. So it was really valuable to know that about our mission over there. I
Very
came to
cool.
Anchorage, yeah, in 2010, loved it, became a resident in 12, and then as soon as I retired, made it full time. And my kids and I have lived here full time since 2016.
Well, and me and you've run into each other quite a few times, and we've collaborated
Oh,
on a
yeah.
couple things. And I got to say to the people out there, Rachel is she's genuine.
Thank you.
She is like any of the rest of us, and that's why I support Rachel is because she's somebody I could go out to, a bar or a cocktail place and sit there and have a beer and just discuss normal things. It
And a
doesn't all.
shanty, we can do those.
Yeah, it doesn't have to always be about politics, and that's the cool thing. In fact, Rachel actually donated some wood to a projects and stuff that I work on. I do some wood flags, and she donated a whole bunch of wood to me. And
Hmm.
I think I still have some of it left. I've gone through most of it, but I still have some left. So we do
Yeah.
appreciate that. You know, that's one of the things here in Anchorage that we really need to um, really start flipping over, and that's the assembly. And we've had a really bad run here since I've been back for the last 3 years
Hmm.
of a hard left assembly. And it was we only had a couple people in there, and we gained a seat and lost a seat. It just seems like it never gets any better, never gets more balanced or anything like that. And that's what we need in there is more balance. But who do you think you're going to be running against? Is LaFran's going to run, or do you think Weddleton's going to jump in?
I've heard both,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just waiting to be seen. But really, at the end of the day, it's immaterial which one of them runs because we're going to be ready for them. And we take this very serious with some of the people that have come out in support of me running in this race. I take that responsibility, that weight very seriously, and I feel honor bound to deliver. They've put their faith in me. The
Right.
least we can do is give it everything we have and then some. So it doesn't matter which one of them runs. We'll be we'll be there. Take them
Well,
on.
and
We need change.
the good thing about Weddleton's, we already know. We beat him. We put Randy in
Yeah,
there over him. And then
yeah.
if LaFran's runs, pretty much most of the people that would have voted for her won't now because she lied when she ran the last time. She ran
Hmm.
as a conservative, and that she's as far from a conservative as you can get. And I think that LaFran's was kind of a puppet. I think that she was put in place to where she'll do what she's told. And
Yeah. Unfortunate.
she's done that. I mean, I think she's been an okay chair. She's definitely been better, in my opinion, than Rivera has. Rivera was, yeah, um, not going to be too nasty about it, but Rivera was kind of a pushover in a lot
Yeah,
of
you
things.
cannot be a
No,
pushover in that position. You've got to be able to know what you are, know what you're about, and hold your own. That's
you know,
the
and
bedrock.
that's the one thing I can see. You know, adding you on to the assembly. You know, there's going to be a couple other people that are leaving. AQD's leaving.
Hmm.
Forrest Dunbar's leaving because he won a state position. So there's a
Hmm.
few people leaving already, and we have a pretty good chance of getting that balance back in the assembly. So,
Yeah,
you know,
we have six, what, almost seven seats, I think. Oh, I'm not sure if it's seven, but I know it's definitely six seats. And
I think Pete Peterson, he's done after this one, right? He's termed out.
I hadn't seen that confirmed, but it wouldn't surprise me. I'd have to double
I
check, honestly. I'm
I
not gonna
think
lie.
I think you can only I think there's only a certain amount of terms you can have, and he's maxed out. I think is
That
what
sounds right.
I've been told. So you know, and he's in the same district as Dunbar. So Dunbar, and if that's the case with Pete Peterson, that's going to be a whole new assembly group right there for that community.
And if I can, for just a second, there a gentleman that ran against Dunbar in the Senate race, Andrew Satterfield. I got to meet him. I have to tell you, totally outside of politics, he's one of my favorite people in the world. He is so awesome. I'd love to see him run for the assembly. I think he would be amazing there. And I know somebody else has declared in that race, veteran, and I met him once, and he seems like a very genuine guy. So we have an option for two good people to take those seats
Well,
right now.
that's what we're going to need to have have to
Yeah.
happen is get good people in there. And I know that one of the things that really uh, can have an impact on the city is our community councils. And
Oh,
you know,
100%.
if you get a chance to go to your community council, make sure that you do that. And you can a lot of these people that are going to be running for assembly is going to be popping into community councils here or there. So if you live in a certain one and you have a candidate that's going to be running, definitely check out your community council because you'll get a chance to listen to
And that's a really good
them.
opportunity to interact with them one on one in a small group because not a lot of people go to their community councils. And I think the thing that bugs me about that, and I'm kind of bad about it too, because I go to my own community council, I'm the vice president of it, but they only show up in election season. And I'm like, you need to be here all year. It's one of the things I really like about Randy is he always comes to the
Mhm.
meetings, whether it's a campaign season or not. So
Well,
it's
yeah, and
very cool.
that's you know we see that with I was in Abbott Loop community council for quite a while, pretty much the whole year, and you know I'm not in it no more. But a lot of it was because I was the only conservative that was showing up, and it was getting kind of frustrating for me to push back on arguments that you know shouldn't be arguments; they should be common sense kind of stuff. And I ended up getting kicked out. I was a director of the community council, and I got kicked out because the leftists didn't like me and they're having a say. So,
And see, it shouldn't be like that. These are your neighbors,
yep.
these are your friends, these are people you see out walking their dogs and you admire their yards, you don't hit, you drive down the street and you see their kids outside. These is your community, your immediate community where you live and raise your family. And we shouldn't be letting politics divide us in our communities. We should be coming together and be adults enough to have those hard conversations about places where we don't agree, but identify probably the 70% of the things we do agree on and then work on those to get real solutions moving forward for this community.
Right.
That's
No,
that's what it's supposed to be.
I agree. You know, and I was
Yeah.
getting some of my regular neighbors to show up on the community council, and you know, we were starting to have a little bit of an impact, and then, you know, you know, just like it always happens, people start to lose interest in it, and I a lot of people criticize the community councils for going to Zoom, but you know what? That actually worked in our favor because we
We
could
got a lot of
actually,
people.
yeah, well, and not only that, but you know, the stuff that happens in one on one, if you're not there, you get to miss it. If you get on Zoom, you can do it from home.
Hmm.
You can do what I was doing. I was recording the meetings so that if somebody from my community wanted to see the meeting, I could give it out rather than have to go to the community council president to get it. Um,
Hmm.
and I was not looked at very well for recording those meetings, mainly because I was
Well,
catching people doing stupid things. Um, you know, when people are in a public meeting, which is what these were, you have to, understand that there could be someone filming or it could be somebody, uh, you know, recording the meeting. And some people weren't happy that I was doing that. But, I think that,
I just I just remember when I commissioned as a brand new officer and I got my coin after graduating OCS and it was a female 1 star. And she was one of the first or one of the few females in the Texas Army National Guard. She had come to the event. We were in Texas and she shook all the hands of all the young ladies that were commissioning and she told us something really valuable. She said, look, if you won't say it on the 6 o'clock news with your grandma sitting there watching you, don't say it.
yep.
This is really good advice.
Well, and that's,
Yeah.
I've been
So
attacked on different community councils and all kinds of different stuff. And, the only thing you can really do is sit there and laugh. I mean, here's the thing: if you're not going to say it to somebody to their face, in
I'll
person,
say it.
don't say it because,
Absolutely. You've got to be authentic. I'm not saying you always have to be nice, but you've got to always
yeah.
be genuine.
Well, and think about Anchorage. Anchorage isn't a very big city. I mean, eventually
No.
you're going to run into somebody that you knew or whatever, and
Oh, yeah.
depending on their mentality, you might end up getting a butt kick, and that's how things used to be handled back in the day. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember the schoolyard when we were young. We're about the same age.
yeah.
So, you need to be respectful of people. And I think you can have whatever opinion you want.
Well,
But if you can't discuss it like an adult, I don't know what to do with you.
and it's like the assembly. You're going out there for a public position.
Hmm.
You're trying to win that race. And I mean, I see people from the assembly all the time. I ran into Chris Constant. Um, inside the assembly, we don't get along very well. But you know what? He's still a human being, and
He is.
I know I have a lot of conservatives that will disagree with me on this part of it, but I still have to share this city with him, and we got to be nice to one another, and me and him somehow we have some kind of weird um, thing that we and him can get along outside of the assembly, and we're nice to each other, and he's completely opposite mindset of what I am, and different lifestyles, everything else. And
Oh,
at the
yeah.
same time, he's still a human being, and he's got rights that I have, and I have rights that he has, and we're not that much different, really. Just thoughts and
Well,
opinions.
and the way you treat people, I think, says more about you than the people you're directing it at.
Right.
So that's how you show other people you respect yourself and you deserve basic human decency and courtesy by giving it.
Right.
That's kind of the rule, I think.
Well, yeah, and unfortunately nowadays, I mean, you look at, I'll give you an example, Twitter. The left is losing their ever loving mind on Twitter right now
Dumpster
because,
fire.
well, Elon decided to reinstate Trump, so they're
I
losing their
saw that.
mind. I mean, I've been on it
Yeah.
all night last night. They are losing their minds, and
It's a train wreck rolling. It really is.
well, and the thing is he's lived in their minds since the day he came down the escalator. And yeah, he's gruff and he's the kind of bull in the china closet kind of guy. But
Oh,
we
yeah.
needed someone to burn it down for a little bit.
He is the
It,
king of the inappropriate statement.
and yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
it's gonna happen again. I mean, the guy hasn't gotten no younger and he hasn't got no more polished. And if he gets in
I
there and
know.
he runs in the primaries and stuff again, which it looks like he's going to, it's gonna be ugly again. I
Well,
don't know.
and that's unfortunate because the conservatives, we all share a basic core set of values, whether you're more on the libertarian, moderated side, which is kind of where I live, and if you're in the extreme right side, at the end of the day, we all believe in democracy, the Constitution, law and order, family, parents' rights. We want to support teachers without all the ideology. I feel really bad for teachers. They are in the proverbial rock and hard place.
Hmm.
We want people to get educated, but we also support the trades. We've kind of become, the middle class party. And for all those people that are politically homeless, that's really what drove me into politics. I was politically homeless. And I thought, I don't identify here, but I'm not going to the left. I'm ideologically opposed to them in every way. Their fiscal policies are terrible. They're soft on crime. They interfere in parents' and families' lives. they interfere in education in ways that are inappropriate. So I did like that Trump was kind of a mirror that held up how we fight amongst ourselves as
Hmm.
conservatives. And we need to coalesce around the things we agree on and then learn to treat each other decently about the things we don't.
Right. Well, and
I
one of the
yeah.
big examples of that was this last congressional race, right? With we had two candidates that the GOP put forward. Uh, well,
Hmm.
well, GOP got behind one, and then she got behind. She did her own thing, and what ended up happening was you ended up having this big rift. And I seen it on Facebook, and I seen it in person with different people talking crap about candidates that are in their own party. And what ended up personally, what I think should have happened was after the. This is just my personal opinion. After the primary, and we seen who got the most votes, the least amount of vote winners should have backed out, because we split the vote when it came into this ranked choice voting system, and I think it
Yeah.
ended up hurting us. We could have, we
Or at
literally,
least
we could have
they could
won
have
that.
come together.
Well, we could have won it on the first vote.
We could have. And if they absolutely couldn't get together like that, then right from the get-go, we need to understand this new ranked choice voting, it's a team sport.
Yep.
And we're one team, one fight. And if we can't understand that basic concept, we're never going to make any headway in the new system unless we vote it down again, which I hope happens.
Well, we should have learned from the first, from the primary. I think we had
We should have.
the Democrats had one candidate, and they were
Mhm.
able to push over 50%, and they got that candidate in. But if you looked at the difference between Palin and Begich, we had enough to beat that. Put us over 50%. We would have won there. And
Mhm.
I don't know. It just we don't learn from our mistakes. We have this habit of beating a dead horse kind of mentality. And when we do that, we never win. And my opinion is this, and you could consider me a hard right or far right, whatever you want to say, but the conservatives that we have nowadays are not the hardcore, we need to get it done type conservatives. They're more in the middle, at least
Mhm.
the Murkowski types and things like that. They
Oh yeah, no.
they
I'm
will
not
they
in
will
that middle, let's be
no.
clear.
Well, they will vote with the Democrats more than they'll vote with their own party, and that's
That's terrible.
it's disturbing.
Yeah.
So we don't have the kind of people that will go out there and really push something through like they should.
They're afraid to talk about it. I see that a lot. They're afraid to talk about it because they're worried it'll cost them votes. And I really think if you are just genuine, that's going to come through more. And I would respect a politician that said, I don't know, or I was wrong and I've recanted and here's why. And was just authentic and genuine with that than somebody who wants to gaslight me or
Right.
try to, sweep it under the rug.
Well,
And I see that all the time.
we have politicians and stuff in DC, and we have to kind of go off of their example almost all the time because they're always in the news. It's what we see.
Hmm.
We don't know what's going on in, say, Oregon. We don't necessarily know what's going on in, say, Colorado. We don't know those politicians, right? So we have to kind of
Hmm.
find out what's going on in DC, and then with our own local politicians, that's the example that we have. And when we see, somebody that's not doing what we think that they should be doing, it angers us. It makes us mad, and then we turn that frustration onto the next politician that's running. Right? Are you going to
Oh,
do
yeah.
this, or are you going to do this?
I get asked that a lot. Are you going to
Yeah.
do this? Are you going to do that? It's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in there and I'm going to lead with a compass that points north on my morals and my code of ethics. And I'm going to separate my ego and my personal feelings from what the right thing is every time. And,
Mhm.
you know, I'm pretty reliable conservative vote. I think your money should be in your pocket, not in the taxes. I think your kids should learn how to read and write before they learn about whether or not gender is a construct. Um,
Agree on that one.
yeah, don't get me started. I don't think that my kids, I have a 13-year-old, should be savvy and aware of the things he's savvy and aware of. Granted, the internet, it's a reality, but I can turn that off. I have
Hmm.
control over that. And what I've seen with education and with the assembly is they've broken faith with the people,
Yep.
and they've broken our trust time and time again. They have not been responsible with public money, which I think is a sacred duty. It's not your money, it's our money, and
Right.
you need to treat it as such. And they've just run this city into the ground. I came here on purpose, and I know a lot of people that aren't originally from here. We come here because this is one of the greatest places I've ever been to, and I've been around the globe twice.
Mhm.
I chose to come here. It's we're losing it.
Yeah, and that's I moved back up here, a little over 3 years ago because I remember what it was like 12, 13 years ago.
That was
And
amazing.
yeah, no, I mean, it was one of the best places to go, and people were nice and friendly. And, it was just a completely different place than any place else in the United States anyway. And,
Hmm.
people could get away from things, and, um, you had the scenery and everything else. And now you have to worry about, the kids going to school and learning, pornographic crap, or, are they going to be indoctrinated here or there? Are they going to get a shot from COVID? Without asking parents. And the thing that really bothers me about the school board is they're trying to institute things that they can do without parental consent, and they've
They're
taken
definitely pushing the
yeah,
limits, and I think they've crossed it in some instances.
yeah. um
Oh,
and the funny thing is I get kids in my bowling center all the time, right? I have high school bowling. I got kids on Saturdays. And none of them even have a clue of what their rights are because they haven't been taught that. I've got kids that work for me that are 18, 19 years old.
they don't teach civics
N-
in school anymore.
no, because they don't want the kids to know. Uh, you know,
You know what I was shocked my kids aren't learning? And it kind of relates to civics and the whole geopolitic geography.
hmm yeah, you
I
can't.
didn't know that till COVID, and I was like, why don't you know this about geography? Where is this class happening? And he was like, what do you mean geography?
Yeah,
And I was like, how do you understand how things interrelate and work in the world if you don't understand? I was just blown
well,
away. I was like, how did I miss that?
that's the thing. I mean, you pull up a map now of
Yeah.
the world, and no one knows where anything's at. Okay, well, here's South
No,
Africa.
oh my God, I have a teacher friend, and she said when she asks kids to find the US on the map, more kids point to China than the US just because it's simply
It's
larger.
bigger. Yep.
And I was
Yep.
like, oh, that's all. I mean, I
We had
like,
that
and
thing even
the thing about education, sorry, go ahead. I don't want to
we
interrupt
had
you.
that even when I was in high school. So that's nothing new. But
Yeah, you can lead a horse to water, right? Can't make them drink, but you got to make it available in all honesty and be an honest broker. So, but the thing about education with the assembly, because it's not the school board, is businesses invest. One of their number one metrics when they invest in a community is the quality of the education in that community.
hmm
You're talking about businesses large and small, and every size in between. And those businesses drive our economy with employment, which drives our tax base, makes our city solvent. Those things are important. And if you don't invest in education, which is the workforce, and not only that, you can't attract quality workers from somewhere else because nobody's going to bring their kids here. We're 49th in the nation.
yep.
So
Well, and we
it's
used
a
to
problem.
be we used to be in the top five.
We were, and I don't know how we got away from it. That's a
Well,
question,
and that's what
nebulous.
and that's what the assembly and the school board need to focus on. Is let's look back in the '80s and find out when we were top notch schools, and what were we teaching back then? And
Well, I keep hearing technology, and I was like, teacher shortage or technology aside, what was their best practice for achieving results? Because kids haven't changed.
well, I tell you what.
How we're socializing them has changed.
Well, I tell you what. One of the biggest issues was, and I'm not sure what the date was that they got involved, but as soon as
Mm.
the federal agencies started getting involved in school systems, that's when we started failing.
I'd
Uh,
say that's fair because when they got involved in the student loan process is when we started seeing problems at the colleges
yeah.
too. So I'd say that's a very fair
Well, I
comment.
mean, you got like for sports, right? They're talking about um, eliminating a bunch of sports here in Anchorage. They're talking about closing
It's
down
a
certain
terrible idea.
schools. Let's completely cancel all the incentive kids have to want to learn, right? Let's take away all the things that's fun in school. Um, all
Look,
the
I know school
competition.
closures. Yeah, school closures are not popular.
No.
And I really feel for the people that have to make those choices. That's a tough place to be. We are real estate rich with a low population of students. And I think that is a factor that does have to be addressed. But canceling sports and not prioritizing spending in the classroom and spending it directly for the benefit of students at the schools is a miss
Right.
for the school. And they need to reprioritize that. That's what I would have done if I'd won. It's unfortunate, but we've got Cliff Murray and Dave Donnelly, so I plug for them. I hope they get it.
Right. Well, and you know, we
Yeah.
also they've also taken away things that matter in schools too. I mean, like your life skills classes, home ec, all the classes that teach somebody how to do something right out of high school.
Pretty much any trade. And we go to family partnership. I took my son out of ASD. I was done with the silliness. And they charge me as a family partnership parent twice as much as if I just went. I don't know why we're special, but it's a prohibitor. I'm not going to go and spend twice as much there when I can send my 13-year-old literally to UAA and spend less money.
Right.
So, I mean, and I'm being very general here about that, but they're not, making it easy.
Right. Well, and, you know, that's the thing. I mean, what it all comes down to is control, right? Control and money. That's kind of what I've always noticed. It always comes down to. It's never really been about the kids. It's never really been about them learning better or the accolades and stuff that they can get while they're in school. It's always about the control and about the money. And when you have people that are school board members that are just completely oblivious to what they can spend money on or how they should spend money, and they don't put it in the right places, like school bus drivers or keeping schools open.
That assembly meeting too, when the president of the school board said they asked her what she was doing with her money, and she said, "I don't know how to do that." I was just
I was there too.
Shocked. I could not imagine. I mean, I can imagine saying that. I've said I don't know how to do that, but not at that level.
No.
That was, entry level into my professions or new skill. Okay, this is new, but she's not new.
No, she's been there for at least 3 terms.
I think so. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of a galvanizing moment for I need to really, no matter how inconvenient, take charge of my son's education because I'm not an educator.
Right.
And I believe genuinely that children are our most valuable resource. And they're going to come in the house in a minute. No guarantee that I'm not going to have the Hounds of the Baskervilles here. So you might want to mute it if they go off. But you're going to be good? Just the front door. I have rescues. Oh, there they go.
Yep. Here they come. They've announced their presence.
They have. We have 4 rescues, and I brought home dogs from the Middle East when I was over there. And after I served, we gave a home to a dog that didn't have one. It was part of a litter.
Very cool.
He's the mad barker that you hear, but I've been involved with a charity for about 12 years, and they bring soldiers' dogs home from conflict zones and places where we are that most people don't realize we are.
That's cool. So do you have any friends that are still in and still enlisted and still doing things?
Yeah. I was one of the first to retire out of my friend group because I did take a medical early. I retired after 16 years of service between the Guard and active. And I was hit head on by a drunk driver driving home from work, a friend of mine, and I was the only one who lived.
Wow.
The guy driving the car I'd been to flight school with him. He was my stick buddy. And he turned the car just enough that I made it out of there alive. But it ended my flying career. And I limped along for a few more years, but
yeah,
it caught up with me in the end, and graceful. Sorry, my son.
Well, we're grateful.
That's what this certificate's about. So they buried him on my birthday. It was bittersweet.
Wow.
But my birthday's on St. James Day, and we did the Camino de Santiago and honor him. Me and my 2 best friends that are still in to honor him, and we finished it on my birthday at St. James Basilica. It was really cathartic and good to do that for him. He was a great guy. BMI, Marine Corps, then the Army. He was awesome. So
wow.
It was nice to honor him.
It's kind of crazy when people come into your lives and it's almost like they were put there for a reason.
Yeah, he was directly intervened to save my life. And, I really felt bad about that for a lot of years to his widow, who's a friend of mine and had been before the event. And she said, we didn't have kids and you did, and you wouldn't have been able to live.
Hmm.
That was like, okay, I'm getting all verklempt
Wow.
right now, right? This was 10 years ago, but yeah, he was special.
Well, that's
I,
a
I didn't mean to go down that road. It just came out.
that's a super touching story. I mean, that's that right there is
Yeah.
the you might have been saved so that you could run for this kind of thing. So
Oh God,
I'm
that's a little bit
hey, you know
megalomania.
what? You know what? I'll say it. You don't have to. I'll say it.
Okay. Well,
uh,
you do you. I'm not going to judge you, but I do know that that moment really was very defining for me. And while I was losing my career and the ability to fly and everything else that came after, because it was not a smooth or pretty process, it really did though forge and reforge some things in my character to say, life is short and it's very, very delicate and easy to lose. So
Very much
make
so.
it count. And I
Yeah.
have been very dedicated to living up to his sacrifice ever since. And this
Well,
is just part of that.
I think you'd be proud of what you've been doing, and I think that
I hope
I think he's
so.
looking down on you, and it's a light shining on you. So I guess what we need to talk about is if you get on the assembly, what are some of the things that you would like to work on and institute, and hopefully convince the others to jump on board with.
Well, that's the thing, right? You got to get stakeholder engagement. First off, I think this constant infringement and curtailment of public testimony is a problem. How can
Yeah.
we, as elected officials and trustees of the public good, say we know what the public wants if we're curtailing their ability to tell us what it is? Not everybody wants to send you an email. Some people need that face to face. And coming from, project management kind of bend in my career, it's stakeholder management is crucial. If you can't let people reach you or reach people in the way they need to be brought to the table so that they can communicate effectively, you're not doing your job. And
Right.
I think that's job number one, right? Re-engage with the public and restore the faith and trust with the public. And I don't care what party you're in. This is a problem across all sides. I wanna see us really stop using people, homeless people, destitute people, addicted people, as talking points and monetizing them. We have a mayor who genuinely, I believe, he genuinely wants to do good and right by our, indigent populations and our unhoused and our homeless and our marginal community members. But the assembly, and I want to think they want to too, but I haven't seen anything to reinforce that.
Right.
But they're so wrapped up in not liking him that they're willing to sacrifice this slice of our community to not letting him have a win
And use them as tools.
and use these very needy people that the least among us as tools and weapons. And
Yep.
I think we need to stop that. And you do that by setting an example, by setting forth reasonable, rational policies and understanding that you can compromise without selling your soul or your core values and just getting rid of that arrogance and that ego and then addressing crime. So when we had, SB 91, they put in that bill at the state level and they didn't increase the infrastructure to account for that change in our social structure.
Right.
And so one of the things I'm really big on is I don't like single points of failure. And I definitely am always thinking of the secondary, tertiary effects, unintended consequences. And I've been lambasted by my party a couple times because I've said in the past, we need progressive voices at the table for balance. And that was the purpose, right? I got a copy of the Constitution on my wall
Mm-hmm.
and the Gettysburg Address. They're there for a reason. They're not window dressing. They're things I bought many, many years ago, very personal about understanding that need for tension and balance and debate. Government is supposed to be slow and ponderous because we don't want fascism or authoritarianism, monarchy. We want democracy. And the way to get that is just because I listen to you doesn't mean I have to agree with you or do what you say, but I do need to give you that basic respect of hearing.
Yep.
I don't see that from the assembly right now. And they totally hosed it up with COVID. They killed a lot of businesses. You were one of them. They put a lot of people in a really hard spot. Our children, I don't know if that age group of children is ever going to make up that learning loss, or they will always forever be playing catch up. and they're not even willing to admit they were wrong. And they've done nothing to mitigate or redress these issues. And so I think that's really number one. You can't go forward until you clean up the mess you're in. Like,
Well, I think, and this is kind of what I think that the assembly thought. I thought that they thought that the feds were going to come to the rescue.
oh
Um,
no.
and they thought that this was a way for them to get a bunch of money to put in their coffers and open up a whole different thing. And now that it's coming out that COVID was basically just a giant flu, it's making them all look bad. And I think that this is one of the reasons that some of the other ones like AQD is stepping down, because there's a lot of things that are coming to light. And she kept us held down for quite a while. And I
I just
think,
stopped doubling down on ideas that obviously weren't working. I mean, public health's a reality and you need to be concerned about it. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, if the cure is worse than the disease, maybe you need to rethink what you're doing. And they didn't go through that genuine gut check, that look in the mirror and say, okay, this was our intention and this was what happened. And how do we bring those two back together? They just kept doubling down on these bad events and just making it worse. And when you would approach them about it and say, this city is suffering, your people are suffering, your community members, your families, the children, they just said that we were crazy right-wing extremists and terrorists, and they kicked us out of the chambers. I was
yeah.
like, that's not how you come together with
They
people.
politicized the whole damn thing, and that's the bad thing about it. Was it's the first time that I can remember, and we've had other diseases and stuff that's popped up. We've
Mhm.
had the Zika virus and all kinds of different other flus, and you name it, and it's never gone to the thing, you know the size of what this in here has. And of course, it looks like it was more political than anything else. And now, not only that, but they forced the vaccine on so many different people. And now, if you start watching
Yeah.
headlines and stuff, new things are starting to pop up. The adult um, sudden adult death syndrome, I think is what it's called. You're seeing young people that are dying playing sports, and it's you know, did they have a hand in it? Did they know? There's all kinds of different things,
No.
but on a
And I'm
local,
not a doctor, right? I
yeah,
can't I can't say definitively, but I can say this. There's no reason for the government to get involved in the patient-doctor relationship ever.
exactly.
And
No,
there's no reason for the government to get involved in the parent-child relationship. I'm applying to be a government servant. I know I'm not a doctor. Why would I get involved in that? I understand I'm not the subject matter expert. It's my job to seek those people out and then aid them as necessary to protect you or me or the rest of us.
well,
But that's
the thing that irritated
not
me,
mandate.
irritated me the most about the COVID stuff with the assembly was, they had people that had gone through a medical school and had gone through a bunch of different things, and they were trying to inform them, hey, listen, you know what, this is a difference of opinion. This stuff is bogus. The masks are not doing it. I mean, I had a friend, Scott Stansberry, went on and he worked in hazardous type stuff, and he was an expert on masks, and he was like, listen, you put a mask on somebody, it's like throwing a marble through a fence, a chain link fence. It's not
I
doing you
heard
any
this.
good, and I don't know. I think that they mishandled the whole thing. I think
I do think they
it started with
mishandled it.
Berkowitz, and then it just escalated from there. Um,
And it was the unwillingness to come to the table and say,
yeah,
maybe, okay, I was willing to give them, like, look, nobody knew. We weren't sure. You wanted to be, to use the word, conservative about your response for public health. I'm willing to give you that buy. But then when you knew and you had experts and you
yeah.
doubled down, I was like, okay, now I have heartburn with this. And I'm not down with mandates. If people want to wear masks or get vaccines, that is your business. But I
Well,
don't like the government
and
telling you.
there's other dumb things too. Like they were um, UAA had set up a secondary COVID treatment facility, right? They piped in a bunch of oxygen lines and everything else. They had it all set up so in case it broke out again, they could be
Mm,
set up. Well, as soon as it calmed down the first time, oh yeah, we don't need that no more, and then they let everybody go that was a part of that. And then sure enough, it breaks out again, and people start getting sick again. And now they've got no beds, they've got no equipment to try and help people. It was just mismanaged entirely.
So
And
this goes back to, yeah, what I was saying about single points of failure,
yep,
unintended consequences. I mean, you've got to have. I learned this from a friend of mine who's in the SOCOM community, and it's called a PACE plan: your primary, your alternate, your contingency, and your emergency plan. And I don't understand why city planners and politicians don't operate like that.
right. Well,
We've been on a continuing budget. It's everywhere. It's not just health.
well, I think that Anchorage has got a long ways to go. I think
I do
people
too.
getting people like you in there is a start. And
You.
the thing is getting people in there with some common sense. And I know that the people that are in there on the left side have common sense. They just refuse to use it. And you can
I see a lot of
see,
brinksmanship.
yeah, you can see that there's a lot of um, things that they know that they're doing the wrong thing, and they just keep doing it
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, you brought up Chris Constant, and I do try to stay away from talking poorly with people, but I have to tell you, the last time they had public testimony and I was there, I felt like I needed to bring him a little tiny Oscar. he was he was really putting it on, and I was like, come on, dude, don't insult our intelligence.
Well, and I kind of think that some of the people that are in the assembly, I think that they think that it is a show.
It's not a show; it's very serious business.
It's life, and it can be life and death in certain things, and it you can make or break somebody with the policies that they make. And
So that's, yeah, I love that you said that, because that is something I told a friend of mine. She's not political. She's always like, stop talking to me about it. I don't want to hear it. And I said, look, it doesn't matter if you like politics or not. And policy is never going to be sexy, ever, right? But it's tremendously impactful
mm-hmm.
on everybody's life down to a granular level. So, like it or not, if you're not paying attention to it, it's 100% going to bite you in the butt.
Well, it affects
So,
everybody.
it's a priority. Yeah.
I mean, it affects us. If we were paying taxes, the percentage of the tax that they wanted to charge us, that affects our pocketbook. The things that we do as far as like gas and oil, that affects how much we pay at the pump.
Right.
Different things have a different impact on us, but politics is what all that is. That's what encompasses all of it. So if you're not paying attention and you shy away from it, and growing up, we didn't talk politics.
We did.
We didn't. I mean, I was raised by my grandparents. My grandparents hated politics. And
no.
they were more like, what, if you talk politics, you're going to hate one side or the other. We're just going to ignore it. And we never talk politics or religion at the dinner table. And
so my brother is a Bernie Sanders loving liberal, and I love my brother. We don't agree at all. And, I always tease him. Every family has one, because he's the lone liberal. And he's just like, stop. But I'm not going to not love him. He's still my brother. He's a very good person. He's very empathetic, and he gets sucked in really easy to those, save the world, everybody be happy, sing kumbaya. And I'm like, I love that about you. But we need to also balance our checkbook.
Yeah.
and
we also need to be able to put food on the table.
Accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And so in our family, we talked about politics all the time. It was the dinner sport over the table. We weren't allowed to talk about money. That's the dirty stuff. But everything else was fair game.
Our stuff was mainly hunting and fishing and, local stuff. We didn't, to be honest with you, when I was growing up, I didn't even know who the mayor of my town was. I had no clue.
I don't think I did either. It's funny you bring up hunting. My dad used to take me quail hunting when I was a kid. And we'd go with 22 rifles. And so I joined the military 20 days before 9/11.
Wow.
I joined the California Army National Guard.
You're in the same group as like Chris Kyle and them.
Yep. And so 9/11 happened, and I got a call from my guard unit. I had not shipped to basic training yet. I had a date, but I hadn't left. And so I was assigned to a unit, and they said, you've got 30 minutes to come to the armory. We'll see you when you get here. So I had to drop my kids off, go get my uniform and all my stuff. And I was in an MP unit. And they gave me a loaded M16. This is how long ago it was. And rules of engagement that said you can shoot anybody that doesn't stop or can come and take your equipment or cross the barrier, because we were guarding the 1106 Avcrad, which controls the ADAs along the western coastline. I was like, well, this is a very raw introduction to the military. And I reported to basic training with federal active time. I was so glad my dad had taught me how to hunt because otherwise I'd had no idea how to be using that rifle.
You know what's crazy about 9/11?
Yeah, it was a crazy time.
Thinking back about that time. So, um, I seen the last commercial air or passenger plane, big,
Hmm.
747 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
land in a city that had a small airport. And
Oh yeah.
I was delivering like Schwann's ice cream, and they started grounding, all the planes. And one of the
Yeah.
last planes in the United States landed at an airport 20 miles from me, and I got to watch it come in, and it was
Wow.
being escorted.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. People don't realize how everybody's like, that's not a real story. And I'm like, you don't know. It was absolutely
Yeah, it was nuts.
life altering and tragic. And I mean, it was Pearl Harbor of our generation, in
Yep.
my opinion.
And we all have events like that happen as we grow up and get
Hmm.
older. Before that, this wasn't a terrorist attack, but it was something that changed my life and my outlook on things. Was a Challenger disaster. Um,
Oh my God, we watched that live in my sixth grade classroom.
I
That
was
was
in fourth grade, and our
oh my
fourth grade
God.
math and science teacher had gone to school with Krista McCullough, and
Oh no.
we had actually had a conversation with her. He had called her. He had some way to get a hold of her, but anyway, they were friends. And I remember whenever the thing blew up, he was he had to leave the
He's
classroom
probably
because he was
shocked.
bawling. Yeah, I mean he was just beside himself.
Oh,
And
that poor man.
yeah,
That's rough. I doubt you were watching it because you expected that. I mean, that was I didn't have that connection with it, but it was still, I mean, it was defining as a child to see that.
yeah,
It's in
and
line with what we were talking about earlier.
yeah, it's a pretty crazy. Uh, that was definitely pretty crazy. I mean, that was before they started censoring things. 9/11, they censored everything. Um, as soon
You
as
can't find the documentaries that used to be out about it now. I
no,
had my children watch it because they were very upset. For 10 years of their lives, all of a sudden, I was always gone,
hmm
and they didn't understand it. And I said, this was the catalyst. And you know, I had given my word to the government and entered into a contract. I'm duty bound, honor bound, honor it and follow through on it. And no, I don't like being away from you. No, I don't like going overseas, but I made a promise. I gotta
yep,
keep it.
yep.
And they were like, okay. And we made our peace with it as a family. But yeah, it was you can't find that out there on the TV. All gone.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy with the different apps and things that are out there now, and you watch different military members talk about the military, now versus what things were like back then. The outlook on the military is so different now.
My son's in the Navy. He tells me things and it just blows my mind. I was like, I feel like we're 100 years apart in
Yep,
experience.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. Things are definitely changed. Some things for the good, some things for the bad, and I think it's leaning more toward the bad. We have to find a way to bring back some of the values from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, early 90s. I don't want to go late late 90s, but early 90s.
Yeah. Let's leave
Uh,
the pastel jeans in the past.
yeah, exactly. And
Um,
we need to find a way to get the mentality back. And I hate to say this, but we need to have the feeling of what happened during 9/11 and how we treated each other afterward. For a year, I would say a year, we were a lot kinder. We were a lot more
we
forgiving.
were united.
Yeah, we had a
We
purpose.
were united as Americans,
Yep.
and it transcended everything else. It's funny you bring up this. We need to get those feelings back. My oldest is 24, and I was the house where all the kids came that had bad homes that my kids were friends with. I was that mom, and I probably had 5 or 6 teenagers come through my house that aren't actually mine. Teach them to drive, help them get jobs, get into college or whatever, and that's been very rewarding. But the reality is, I've built relationships with these young people, and they talk about it, and I always ask them, why don't you guys vote? Why don't you guys get involved? I asked them, I want to reach out to your generation with Discord where they're like, oh no, don't. But the flip side is when they answer me, they say, because we don't have any hope.
Yeah.
It's not going to make a difference. And that is heartbreaking because, okay, so like I came out of the trailer park, right? I don't come from a family with a big name or a lot of money. I crawled out of the poverty pile, and my parents made that happen by focusing on education. But I always had hope.
Yeah.
I was excited. When I voted for the first time, I was glad to turn 18 because it meant I could vote.
Right.
There was hope with and belief in the country and the process, and I don't see that in the generations behind us. They've lost it, and it's part of our breakdown, I think.
Well, and that, that's the unfortunate thing is, growing up, I mean, what were you told in school? You can be anything that you want to be,
Oh
and,
yeah, I said I wanted to be an astronaut.
yep.
Nobody laughed at me. They were like, "You do that. You go, girl."
Well, I wanted to be an astronaut too. And
I
I
still
knew
kind of
one.
want to be an astronaut. I'm not gonna lie.
I wanted to be an astronaut, not because it was a cool thing to be. It was because I knew an astronaut. So my
Oh,
hometown,
awesome.
we had a guy named Mike Lounge. We fished with his dad all the time, and Mike would come in every so often. He'd come fishing with us, and he'd tell us about, we'd go out and go night fishing. We'd be looking
That
up
is
at the
so
stars,
cool.
and he goes, I've been up there, and yeah, no, it was a cool experience. He's actually he passed away. Oh, it's
Oh,
been 10,
yeah.
15 years ago now, but he developed cancer, which they have
A lot of them do.
studied, thinking
Yeah.
that some of it might have been the radiation and stuff from when he was up in space. But
Mhm.
no, it was a cool experience knowing somebody that had been on a space shuttle. Um,
Right. Well,
and
and did it inspire you to know this man?
yeah, no, it was cool because it's like, I know a guy that,
But it's
you know,
achievable. He was a real human being.
yeah.
This is what real equity looks like, right? It's not
Hmm.
this BS they're teaching in schools. If you see somebody in your neighborhood succeed, because it's not about color, it's about class, it's about socioeconomics, right?
Hmm.
I succeeded because I was told in my community that I could.
Right.
There was never any, you can't do that. They were like, you have every right to go and get that and do that, and you should achieve it, and anything less is not right. And we're not teaching that in these communities. And it's not about if I see somebody that has the same hair color as me or looks like me do it. It's about if I see somebody that comes from the same place as me do it.
Well, and I think what happened that ruined a lot of that is, I'm going to say it again, participation trophies. It's good to
Yeah,
give
they're
somebody,
not a good thing.
it's good to give somebody praise for trying something. But
100%.
you got to give the people who excelled at that thing something higher than a participation trophy.
Well, because
You can't give, you've got to breed some kind of competition.
oh
It
my God, yeah, I'm like over here dying. Yeah, 100%, because this is military discipline 101.
Hmm.
If I gave all the soldiers who showed up late and all the soldiers who showed up on time, because coming to work at 4 a.m., that's a struggle and a sacrifice.
Hmm.
And we do it in all the weather. And it's like, I treat the guys that show up late and the guys that show up the same. What's the impetus to show up on time? What's
Yep.
the impetus and the drive to make that sacrifice and get up and leave before your family's even out of bed and you don't get to stay on at the beginning of your day? And to be outside in all kinds of weather and doing hard labor or physical training, where's the drive to do that if
But
we don't hold if we don't either reward the overachievers or hold the underachievers accountable?
well, and that's, right now, and a lot of jobs and things like that, like my job, right? So I manage a lot of people, and we've been
Hmm.
shorthanded for since COVID basically hit
Yeah,
us,
a lot of people.
and we're finally getting to where I have, somewhat of a an employee base again, and I'm not going to mention any names if they could be watching this or whatever, but I've got employees that literally slack off, um, like daily, or they show up late to work. And the thing is they know that there's no repercussions because they know I need them. And as soon as I get,
Yeah.
applications and things, start flowing again, and where I get more people and things like that, those same people are going to get a rude awakening whenever they wake up in the morning and they get let go because they're not showing up on time. They think that, oh, well, he needs me, so I can get away with this. Yeah, that's about to start ending. Um, I've already got
Yeah,
my
and
staff built back up.
I'm not a big fan of a super draconian or authoritarian totalitarian environment, but there do have to be actions and consequences, and
Yep.
we as adults need to decide if we're willing to accept those consequences.
Well, if employees
You
get away
know?
with a certain amount of stuff, and then it starts to bring the other employees down. The ones that do show up on time, the ones that
Oh,
do a great
absolutely.
job. it starts to drag on them, and then they end up wanting to
It's
quit, or they
toxic,
start looking for other
in my
jobs. And
opinion.
yeah, it just be well, and on the management side of things, I look like a jackass because I'm not rewarding the people I need to be rewarding. Um,
Well, I mean, come on, we're all human. We like to be recognized for work or jobs well done or performance well done. And I'm a big Ayn Rand fan. She
right.
she said something in her book Fountainhead. There's no small jobs, there's only small people.
Yep.
And I've really tried to raise my children like that and live like that myself. There's no job that's beneath me. Every
Exactly.
job's worth my best.
Yep. Well, and
But
as a manager and an employer, there's no job out there that I can't do or wouldn't be willing to do. I can't do that and expect someone else, to do something I tell them to do. I, yeah.
yeah,
If
I
I,
took out my own trash even when I was the commander. It's not we're not too good for that stuff. It's just about you've got to be dedicated though to personal achievement and I think reason why some people slack is we're back to that there's no hope, there's no purpose, there's no point to it. And
right.
it's just a negative cycle.
Well, Rachel, we've been on for about an hour.
Okay.
So I want
That
to
was
see
quick.
if there's anything you want to add before we close this out. Um,
Um well, I mean, I'll give you the normal shill, right? So Rachel Reese for Assembly. I have a website. It's reesforalaska.com, and that is RIESFOR. You can volunteer. We are definitely gonna want volunteers because without the people, nobody win.
right.
Of course, we like donations, but that I want your vote more. And if you want to reach me, I'm on Facebook. My cell phone's on there. You can always. I want to be approachable. I think approachable leadership is the way forward for us here in District 6 and across the city because something that people fail. I hear this all the time. Well, you're not in my district, or so and so's in my district. Well, and you brought him up, Chris Constant. He's not in my district, but he sure affects my property
Yes, he
taxes.
does.
So
Yeah.
you need to widen your lens. And Judy Elligis, she's Judy, but she does say something very smart. Local politics are the most important politics that you need to pay attention to, and I agree with her 100%. So,
Well, the local
you know,
politics affect your pocketbook more than the national ones
oh
do
my
for the
God,
most part.
exponentially
Yep.
so. So I always appreciate coming on, and I'm glad you liked the treehouse wood for all your gun
Yeah.
hides and flags. That was a storied wood there,
Yep.
and
And I look forward to using some of the other wood that you gave us as well. I
oh
haven't
yeah,
figured out what I'm
the
going to do
home
yet, but
remodel.
yep, I haven't figured out what I'm going to use it for, but I'm going to use it.
Well,
Right now, it's just in storage. But
that's okay. I'm glad it went to a good home. You know, I'm not all down with taxes are going to fix the climate, but I don't like to waste.
yeah, no,
So I like this.
we'll use it if you got it. So, Rachel, I
Yeah,
appreciate you
okay.
coming on. Looking forward to
Always.
supporting you for the assembly. And
Thank you very
I
much.
think that Rachel is the person who needs to get in there and whip them into shape. She's got the right mentality, and
Oh
she's
yeah.
just a genuine person all the way around. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off tonight. So, Rachel, thank you again for coming on. This is Dustin
Thanks for
Sherman,
having me.
and
Yeah.
we're going to get out of here for the night. So we'll catch you all later. I'll be
All
back
right.
on
Have a
in
good
about
Sunday.
I'll be back on in
Bye.
about 30 minutes for the other podcast. So tune into that too. We'll catch you all later.